Trivialist presents Extreme Traditional Body Modifications. In our other video, Extreme Body Modifications of the Modern Age, we covered a slew of gross things you can do to your body. But today you better gird your loins, because traditional body modifications are way more intense. Incidentally, one of them is girding your loins. Get ready for extreme traditional body modifications. First up, it won't be much of a stretch for you to guess why this practice is called skull stretching. Yes, it's because of the long skulls. That's right. The shaping of skulls has long been done in cultures all over the world, since before recorded time. You could argue that ancient aliens demanded Earthlings stretch their skulls so they'd be more attractive, but you'd be wrong. In cultures from Peru to Australia, ancient peoples believed that a long, skinny skull was a sign of nobility. To stretch a skull, all you need is a baby and some rope. Since baby skulls are still soft, you just wrap that little cone head up and keep it that way for about a year. When you take the rope off, bada bing, bada cone head baby. Très chic. Next up is a practice called scarification. Scarification is practiced so widely it's hard to say where it started, and the idea is pretty straightforward. Similar to a tattoo, you just use something to break the skin, except instead of using a tiny needle, you could use a hot knife, a scratchy stick, or a red-hot brand. In some cultures, people get scarification at a certain age. In the West, some people just do it for funsies. Designs can be terrifyingly intricate, but be careful not to pass out from blood loss. If you're lucky, you'll get a sweet tattoo scar thing. If you're a little, not so lucky, you get a giant infected bump that isn't going anywhere. Next up is this gnarly little fad. It's tooth sharpening. Yeah, pointy teeth aren't just for vampires. They're also a fashion statement. Tooth sharpening was practiced in many parts of the world, such as Congo, Indonesia, Mexico, Peru, and China. The reasons for doing it are sometimes spiritual, but just as often as not, they are just sexy. I mean, look at those pointy whites. Wow. The process is pretty straightforward. A buddy grabs the old file and starts rubbing at the teeth until they're pointy. If no file is available, you can do it really carefully with a knife. Or another idea, don't do it at all. I suppose there's no point asking if any of these cultures cared much for dental hygiene. I hope they had soft food. At number 4, we've got an oldie and a baddie. This is foot binding. The foot binding fashion started in China over 1,000 years ago. When some ladies of the royal court heard that the emperor was into tiny feet, they smashed their feet into teeny tiny shoes to please him. There was a lot of bone breaking, bleeding, and a couple of foot amputations, but the emperor was pleased. Fast forward to the early 20th century and you've still got Chinese women tottering around on little tiny feet. To keep feet tiny, mothers would literally break their daughters' feet and fold them in half. Then the foot is bound in cloth and kept that way forever, thus foot binding. Bound feet kept women in the home, right where men wanted them. If you were some kind of countrified hick whose daughters had huge natural feet, gross, good luck marrying them off. The practice finally died out completely when Western high heels were introduced to China and presented an easier method of torturing women's feet. Coming in at number 5, we've got an incredible custom that'll have you rubbernecking. It's neck stretching. You've probably seen photos of these Southeast Asian women with dozens of brass rings around their necks. Well, they're members of Burma's Kayan tribe, and is over 1,000 years old. They stretch necks, you guessed it, to be more attractive. The process is begun in childhood and rings are added one at a time. If you're wondering, how do they keep their heads on? Then I'll tell you a secret. You see, the necks aren't actually stretching. Those rings aren't pushing up, they're pushing down. The collarbones and rib cage keep moving down the spine, and the head stays where it was. You might have noticed that most of the really painful things on this list are happening to women. Well, that trend continues with our number 6, female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation, or FGM for short, might be the only procedure on this list that makes foot binding look like a cakewalk. FGM apparently started back in Egypt some 3,000 years ago, and since then, unfortunately, it's spread to most of the neighboring African and Arab cultures. It's usually done to little girls, but babies and teens get FGM in some cultures too. The procedure is almost too gruesome to describe. The girl's clitoris is usually cut off, and then the labia minora and majora may also be cut off too. Some cultures even sew the vulva shut. There have been numerous campaigns to try to stop this practice, but they haven't been very effective. Alrighty, still with me? Because I've got bad news for you. If you thought FGM was terrifying, we're not about to get any better. Poking in at number 7, we've got penis splitting. The procedure was traditional among several Aboriginal tribes in Australia, who called it the terrible rite, and yet kept doing it anyway. I hope you girded your loins, because here we go. To split a penis, simply cut the urethra in half at the bottom of the shaft. The incision can be located at the front of the thing or run the entire length. In the end, you get something like a banana split. If you're wondering why men would do this, it turns out the goal is sympathy pain for women. Hey feminists, after a guy's done this, you gotta give him some credit for trying at least, right? At number 8, we've got a practice you maybe thought was invented in Brooklyn. It's lip stretching. Lip stretching actually dates back to at least 500 BC and is still done in South Sudan and Ethiopia. The process is pretty much the same as your college roommate's ear spacers. Just make a piercing, then keep putting bigger and bigger stuff in there. Some people abandon all practicality and decide to go for broke, stretching their lips to almost the breaking point. Just don't ask them to whistle. Cross your fingers and wish number 9 on our list never comes back into fashion. It's finger cutting, as practiced in Papua New Guinea, specifically by the people of the Dani tribe. Women in the Dani tribe used to show their grief at the passing of a loved one by cutting off a digit. You can still meet some older Dani women who have obviously lost a lot of loved ones because their hands are down to their last digits. The practice has been officially banned and isn't very popular with younger women. We've covered a lot of pretty gnarly traditions from around the world, but Europe deserves a little more love. At number 10, it's the Castrato. Castrato, or castrati if there's more than one, were choir boys who got castrated before puberty. The practice started in the Byzantine Empire around 400 AD. An Eastern Roman empress heard a choir boy and said, "I hope they never change." The choir master got the message and it was off with their little heads. Castrati maintain the vocal range of a child, but have the lung power of a Superman. Unfortunately, you won't be hearing a castrati choir anytime soon. The practice was banned in Italy in 1870. Well, I hope that list made you glad you weren't born in ancient Australia or Egypt, or especially not in Italy. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go get my kids circumcised and then pierce my ears. Bye-bye now.